Welcome back to Dirtbag Cinema. I'm Stephen King, and it's been a while, but last time we talked, I was super excited about a sale called the Vinegar Syndrome Halfway to Black Friday sale. And I was talking about how I was really excited to make a video, talking about all the movies that I picked up, and if it's any indication of how big this sale is, what was it, the last week of May that sale took place? Well, just got my stuff in yesterday, and that's no knock to Vinegar Syndrome. That's just the volume of orders that come in, and it gets crazy this time of year. So, just got my stuff in. I believe I said to pack a lunch in the last video. I'm not going to go through every movie I got. I ended up getting 23 movies, which some people would, laugh at. Some people would say that's absurd. But either way, that's a lot of movies to go through. If you did pack a lunch, please enjoy it. I'm going for more of like an appetizer type length here, so not a full 3-course meal video. But all the same, I picked out a handful of movies from the 23 that I got that some of them were blind buys, but they were on good authority that they were good movies, that they needed to be picked up, and they might still have some of that low stock still in stock. I mean, they were getting low whenever we were at sale time, but some of these, it never fails during this time of year where they say they're out of stock, and sometimes orders get canceled, something happens to somebody's, whatever the case may be, and they get a little bit more stock back in after the sale, and it's back up on their site early July. Actually, July 1st. So if you guys like any of these movies, or if you want to pick them up, I wanted to kind of showcase some that hopefully there's a good chance to get, as opposed to showing you stuff that you can't get. There will be one that I will show you guys that they probably won't be back up for sale come July 1st. But that being said, I still want this. It's just super cool artwork, and you got to see it. So, that being said, first movie that I want to talk about. And now I'm not cutting open the box today. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think the second that thing arrived at my front door, I went out and I opened it up. I didn't have time to make a video yesterday. I haven't opened these movies. They're still in the plastic. I'm not exactly cheating, but this isn't like what's in the box. It's more like I know what's in the box, and here's what it is. So, first up, Blood Theater. I am a giant fan. Sure that's not, yeah. I'm a giant fan of movies that are set in movie theaters. They're just so much fun. I mean, you instantly get that feeling straight away of being in, I love being in a theater. Well, a movie in a movie theater is like double dipping. So, movies like Demons did it. I talked about a movie actually, that was one of the later weeks in the podcast, whenever Panic Fest was going on. I talked about a movie called, Red Screening is one of the titles, and it's also called The Last Matinee from Uruguay. And it's a movie that's set inside a movie theater, and it is outstanding. Now, there's a lot of movies that are like that, but anyway, this one, I have eyeballed this thing for quite some time, and it was just time. Quick little synopsis on this. From the deranged mind of director Rick Sloan, also directed Hobgoblins, comes Blood Theater and The Visitants. That's another thing about this copy, or this release. It's a double feature. It's a little 2-for-1 special right out of the gate. In Sloan's 1984 debut, Blood Theater, an old movie house in which a massacre occurred decades earlier, it finally reopens, only to be once again targeted by a bloodthirsty maniac intent on murdering anyone and everyone who makes the mistake of buying a ticket. Packed with low-rent bloodshed, Blood Theater exemplifies the no-budget aesthetic Sloan relished and features the one and only Mary Warnov from Eating Raoul in supporting role. And then that other feature, just real quick, Sloan's second feature effort, The Visitants. So this was his first 2 films. Pretty cool. The Visitants. It's set in a neon-colored 1950s and chronicles the hijinks which ensue following the theft of a ray gun by a teenage boy from his bizarre neighbors who just happen to be aliens who have embedded themselves within a sleepy suburban neighborhood, of course. But clearly 2 very different movies going on here, but Blood Theater is really what I want to talk about, why I went for this movie, and probably why it highlights the package, because it just sounds like such a great time. I'm very excited that low-rent bloodshed, I'm already in when it comes to this like low-budget, passion project stuff, and if you put that into the theater and just load it up with all sorts of crazy kills, and you got me sold. So immediately right out of the gate, my flavor, Blood Theater, I think that hopefully there'll be some copies left over, like on all of these. Like I said, this is one that is a bit of a blind buy, but it's kind of like a peeking. I mean, it's in a theater, so yeah, it's like a one-eye pick. I mean, I already know I'm going to love that. Next up, Demon Wind. Gotta make sure you can see. There you go. Demon Wind. This one I have seen. This one I saw on Joe Bob Briggs. I think it was like season 2, so it's been a while since I've watched this, and I almost picked it up like multiple times, but this was just when you see that. One of the things about Vinegar Syndrome's site that's really rad is it has like this sort of like a countdown, like what's left in stock, right? So you know, is it something that if I don't buy it today, will it be gone tomorrow? And that's really nice because for people like myself, you end up with like 40 movies in your cart, and you have to really sort of make some life or death decisions. I mean, am I going to eat or am I going to buy Demon Wind? So this time around, we got Demon Wind. But real quick synopsis on this. The strange and brutal deaths of Corey's grandparents has haunted him for years. Determined to discover the truth, he has returned to the desolate region where they lived, along with a group of friends to try to uncover the mystery. Ignoring warnings from the locals, we always do, that the area is cursed, it always is. Corey and his friends soon realize that the legends are true. They always are. As the demon wind possesses and destroys them one by one, turning them into monsters from hell. It says it on the back, and it's 100% true. This thing takes inspiration from the Evil Dead, which I'm a massive Evil Dead fan, so you're already borrowing from a great, great source. That's exciting when you see this if you're a fan. Takes the visual aesthetics of the early 80s work of Lucio Fulci. I'm a big Fulci fan, so there you go, double whammy. It's a supernatural shocker loaded with an abundance of gore and extraordinarily good creature effects. It's one of those ones that even if you hadn't seen it before, it does kind of come across as a no-brainer that you might dig it. You know, if you're into this stuff, like you're talking about an Evil Dead inspired, like Lucio Fulci-esque movie. Well, you have my attention. That's Demon Wind. You might notice that these don't have slip covers. If you're a collector, I mean, a slip cover. I'll highlight one here in a few. It's just, slides over the movie itself, the case itself, excuse me. Those sell out fast, and I'm a little late to the game on some of these titles. And but as bad as I want the slip on some of these, I would rather buy the movie from Vinegar Syndrome than go out to eBay and pay some scalper or somebody, whoever who's selling it for $400. And you're actually supporting Vinegar Syndrome in this sense. So it's worth it. It kind of sucks that you weren't there at the beginning, but hey. Next up, Night Beast. Let's get a good look at that. Night Beast. Oh man, okay. I gotta linger on that for a second. Not very many movies, I don't think, showcase the creature on the cover quite like that. I mean, the big reveal, whatever have you. Sometimes I have to hide in the shadows, this, that, and the other. Night Beast does not care. This is what we're doing today. This is Night Beast. In your face. I love it. Don Dohler. This one is probably the one that if I could have the slip on any of these, it would be this one. A super cool, like 80s looking slip cover. Very cool. Has my neons. I really wish I would have gotten it. Again, if Vinegar Syndrome sometimes brings out slip, a lot of times they'll slip cover maybe movies. I think there was a couple that didn't have slip covers prior that they brought out slips for now. If they ever bring back Night Beast slip cover, I'm going to be all over it. But gotta buy direct from them if you can. Real quick rundown. Amidst a dazzling meteor shower, the Night Beast lands near a small East Coast town armed with his vaporizing ray gun, maybe from the Visitants, God knows. And then the goal of killing everyone who crosses his path. And as area residents are blasted to smithereens, the local sheriff and ever-dwindling group of survivors become determined to figure out a way to defeat this fearsome alien before their entire community is wiped out. It's a dazzling display of lo-fi ambition from Baltimore-based cult filmmaker and underrated auteur Don Dohler. Like also an Alien Factor and Fiend. Night Beast immediately plunges the viewer into a frenzy of wildly colorful and stunning animation techniques. Dig it. Homemade gore effects. Dig it. And awkward sexual encounters. No comment. Made for a scant $14,000, and here's the kicker, man, featuring a soundtrack partially composed by a then teenage, J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams worked on the music for this movie. Vinegar Syndrome proudly brings this regional sci-fi horror classic to Blu-ray, pulled straight from the 16mm original. Not much more you can say about a movie like Night Beast. It's all there on the sleeve or the cover, however you want to put it. And I'll shoot you straight, maybe this is true, maybe it's not. But J.J. Abrams, too many, the butterfly effect. If you never did Night Beast, we might not have our Star Trek, Star Wars, our Super 8s of the world. Who knows? Who knows what would happen if Night Beast didn't happen? So that's enough of a reason for me to grab it, right? Next up on the list, Sudden Fury. Not quite as an exciting bit of cover work as Night Beast there, but this movie is a little bit different than some of the movies that I've been showing here at the beginning. This Fred and his wife Janet have been experiencing problems in their marriage, but when she refuses to help him fund the building of a rural resort and subsequently reveals that she's had an affair, Fred snaps, staging a car accident on a country road and leaving Janet for dead. What seems like the perfect crime, disguised as an accident, it's spoiled by the unexpected arrival of Al, an innocent passerby who, in his attempt to save Janet, quickly finds himself fingered as the most likely suspect in her murder. Phrasing. A riveting, criminally underseen Hitchcockian thriller, prolific NFB short films director Brian Dumoude's Sudden Fury ranks as one of the finest forgotten films to emerge out of Canada's mid-17 tax shelter era. Very precise era. I mean, you really got to know what you're talking about to know about. That's an era I'm not familiar with. Given only a small theatrical release and nearly impossible to view in ensuing decades, Vinegar Syndrome brings this Blu-ray to a new director-approved 2K restoration made from the original 16mm camera negative. It sounds like a really great thriller. I looked up some of the chatter on this movie, and it was all very, very positive, like underrated, very, very cool gem of a movie. So I'm super excited to kind of dig into it and see what it's all about. But it's apparently a lot of suspense, a lot of twists and turns. Great. Apparently the acting's really solid in the movie. So, yeah, this one was another blind buy, but Sudden Fury. I really do dig the cover. Like I said, not as exciting as Night Beast, but how can you be? It's not a fair game. Sudden Fury. Hopefully there's some of these left in stock too. All right, guys. Finally, we get to the coveted slipcover. Extro 3. That's a matte, so I don't have to worry about the shine. Extro 3. Another Alien picture. This is Harry Bromley Davenport's Extro 3. There are, the two Extro movies before this. I actually have not seen Extro 2. I have seen Extro, and it is bananas. Ridiculous movie. Awesome movie. I love Extro, and Extro 3 was one that I was really kind of shocked. This thing, it's not like it just came out, or Vinegar Syndrome just released it. This thing's been floating around for a while. I had this in my cart 6 months ago at the Black Friday sale, and I ended up just having to pass due to other stuff that I was picking up. There was plenty in stock at the time, and I was really surprised that now, 6 months later, you could still get this at half price. So I'm not quite sure where it stood when the sale went down, but even if you couldn't get the slip, that just means that now this version will be available, and it's not so much of a race against the clock to get yourself Extro 3 if you're into what I'm about to read. A group of military personnel have been assembled to, they believe, to locate and disarm old active explosives which have been left unattended at a former Army testing site on a remote island. But when they arrive at the deserted island, they soon discover that something doesn't seem quite right about their mission, and soon enough, they uncover a strange concrete block which, after accidentally blowing up, unleashes an indestructible, bloodthirsty alien being, which will stop at nothing to kill them. As the survivors band together in order to stay alive and try to find a way out and outwit the diabolical creature, they realize that their entire mission might have been a trap and that the military is using them as pawns in their own vicious plan. This is the third and apparently the most violent entry in the Extro trilogy. Harry Bromley Davenport's Extro 3 Watch the Skies moves the setting to Southern California while amping up both the action and the gore. through a series of nasty and inventive death scenes, featuring a talented supporting cast, including Virgil Fry, Easy Rider Graduation Day, got Andrew Divoff from Air Force One and Toy Soldiers, Nigel Gibbs from Pump Up the Volume, and Roger Culp from I Spy. All this thing was shot by Irv Goodenough. He shot Evil Speak. Joe Bob Briggs again, last drive-in. Watched Evil Speak a couple weeks ago for the first time. That was an interesting movie. The old Clint Howard. Anyway, I digress. Extra 3, Watch the Skies. You know, I mean, the way that the alien looks is so crazy. It's kind of got that traditional look to it, but also a very different, disturbing. I like the way that the alien is designed in the Extra films. I can't speak for 2. I'm really excited to see what 3 is all about. And you kind of get like this, like maybe Predator type, like these guys on an island, or these soldiers on an island, and this creature hunting them down. And yeah, I'm excited to find out what it's all about. That's Extra 3, Watch the Skies. Like I said, I don't think it's a rush. If you guys are into this kind of stuff and you think that sounds interesting, I think you should be able to get the copy without the slipcover with no problem. But if you want that slipcover, check in on July 1st. You might get lucky. So, American Genre Film Archive. You hear me talk about them a lot. They're one of my favorite nonprofits. They do great, amazing work. They do the incredibly important work of finding these, just obscure misfit films. A lot of companies do this, but it's my opinion that AGFA goes the farthest in saving some of these movies. They don't have the library, at least on home video yet, that a lot of these other labels do. But they do so much for these. These movies that. This is it. These a lot of times they never expect to be contacted. I feel like I've listened to some interviews, and it's really kind of a beautiful thing when you hear a director who shot their movie 25 years ago and went on to do something else because it just didn't work out financially. They got a call from these guys in Austin, Texas, who want to put their movie on a Blu-ray with special features and launch it and with a slipcover. It blows people's minds sometimes when they realize that there's this love out there for these old misfit films. So that being said, AGFA, I don't know if they're partnered or if I don't know exactly the relationship, if it's sort of like if they've purchased these or they're nonprofits. They didn't purchase. I don't know how they work together exactly, but they frequently do kind of tandem releases with 2 other groups. One, Something Weird Video. I'm not quite sure when Something Weird, when they started, but they've been doing this for a long time. This kind of putting movies out on physical formats. And the other one is Bleeding Skull, who kicked off, I believe, in 2004. And real quick shout out, you might see that logo behind me there. Bleeding Skull just launched their second book. Their first book was their whole thing when they started was writing reviews for obscure shot on video, never been reviewed horror movies, and really kind of shining the light and paving the way for a lot of these movies to be discovered, I think. Their first book was a compilation of some movies from the 80s, quite a few movies from the 80s, hundreds, I think. It's like 200. This book's 250 pages or something like that, and the other one's close to the same thing. And this is the 90s version. So I have the 80s and the 90s, all these shot-on-video horror movies that are just awesome to read about and even more fun to watch. So it's a nice little roadmap. That being said, sorry for the mouthful. Bleeding Skull, AGFA team up frequently to do releases through Vinegar Syndrome, and this one, Limbo, is one of those. You'll see kind of on the side there how, I don't know if this is going to work. You can kind of see the AGFA and Bleeding Skull logos. So, yeah, they're teamed up to put out this movie. And this movie is one that I was very excited to finally be able to put on my shelf. Tina Kraus is kind of like a DIY cornerstone. Like, she's been in countless pictures, right? Working all over the place in the DIY filmmaking scene. And this is the only movie that she's written and directed. It is a crisp 55 minutes. And it's apparently a very, very obscure bit of movie making. After starring in 100 movies over the past 2 decades, Tina Kraus has established herself as an unstoppable warrior for the DIY fringes. Limbo is the first, and to this day, the only movie written and directed by Krause. It's truly invigorating. Limbo presents 3 days in the life of a woman named Elizabeth, as she deals with identity issues, sexist mouth breathers, supernatural manifestations, and a possible trip to hell. Combining video collage experiments with dreamy horror mood, this is what might happen if David Lynch and Nine Inch Nails collaborated on a shot-on-video horror movie. Well, I imagine this is going to be a very, very interesting watch, and probably very, I would say like art house might be the word, like the way that it's approached. I don't know, very avant-garde, if you will, but I'm super excited. I mean, somebody that spent over 100, or has acted in over 100 movies in the DIY world, you learn a lot right on a set. One time, you do that 100 times, and I'm really excited to see kind of what comes out of that brain. And I mean, it's really cool. You know, there's a lot of different festivals and different. There's a lot of push right now, a lot of effort to get more women behind the camera, and to see this movie, a DIY queen, being put behind the camera and really being highlighted and showcased in the way that I'm going to go ahead and say it deserves to be, regardless of if you like this movie or not. The fact that it is her only written and directed movie, that's a big bit of DIY horror history. So very cool, very excited to see what this is all about. Very trippy, very, from what I've seen in the stills, very trippy, very, very wild looking film. But that being said, could be just like David Lynch. We love us some David Lynch around the dirtbag table. So I like that weirdness. So we'll see. But that's Limbo. I wanted to highlight one of my AGFA titles, and I wanted to give a little shout out to Bleeding Skull. Last title up. This one will be available in all of its glory, the way I'm showing it to you, on July 1st. If you want it this way, you'll be able to get it because it just came out the day of the sale. This is yet another box set that I will talk about each movie inside. And I'm talking about Televised Terror. Now, throughout the years, there have probably been 800 boatloads of made-for-TV movies that were actually just really damn good, but never got the release they deserved on Blu-ray or even DVD, right? So Vinegar Syndrome said we had enough of that and decided to start things off with Volume 1 of Televised Terror with 3 movies in the box. Here they are on the back. Are You in the House Alone? Calendar Girl Murders, and Child in the Night. And it's such a cool looking broken TV screen there. You can see it. The headlights of the car coming through. That, oh man, just the fonts of the different movies. Very, very awesome. And the creme de la creme, the chef's kiss on this stuff is when you lift that box lid up and you get the little please stand by. You get the little I'm watching you. You get these different touches on all these box sets. Super cool, super classy. The construction on these things are awesome. And I've never seen any of these movies, but I can't recommend this packaging anymore. Let's dig in real quick here. Last batch, Televised Terror Volume 1. First up, Are You in the House Alone? Gail Osborne is an average high school girl whose life is turned upside down after she is attacked and savagely assaulted. Unsure of who was behind the brutalization, Gail does her best to continue her life. But when a mystery person begins leaving threatening messages and making unsettling phone calls, Gail realizes that her nightmare is only just beginning and that whoever was responsible for her assault is far from through terrorizing her. Who could it be, and just how far are they prepared to take their macabre plans? Now, a little bit of a, I don't know, spoiler alert, I'm not going to call it that, but these movies, I'm going to read through some of the cast that's in them. Some of them are actually really interesting casts with some people that you will recognize. A classic made-for-TV thriller that oozes 70s charm late 70s charm at every twist and turn. Career TV director Walter Gurman's, he directed Twilight Zone, Murder, She Wrote. It's a late-night favorite. Are You in the House Alone develops a slow-burn, edge-of-your-seat mystery where the threat of violence lurks around every corner. Starring Kathleen Beller from Dynasty, got Blythe Danner from Meet the Parents, character actor and acclaimed producer Tony Bill from Sting, And Dennis Quaid, familiar with that man? Inner Space, Far From Heaven, not to mention all of his movie roles too, in one of his earliest acting roles. Are You in the House Alone? That's the I Am Watching You again, which is super cool. But, you know, right out of the gate, the first title, it's not exactly the same thing as like Homegrown Horrors, where it's like, you know, Winter Beast, or, you know, some slasher film from like the late 80s, Fatal Exam. It's not quite like that. These are more slow burn thrillers, very cool little deviation. Granted, you're not going to probably find a whole lot of like TV movies starring Dennis Quaid that involve the Winter Beast, but I like the little bit of a change of flavor here. Next up, you got the Calendar Girl Murders. That right there. High society mogul and bad boy Richard Traynor has just unveiled his latest nude calendar. During the launch party, one of the models is thrown to her death off a balcony by a black glove killer. Another very giallo thing, black gloves. Called in to investigate is Lieutenant Dan Stoner, a hard-nosed cop who's thrust into the high-stakes world of nude and fashion modeling. Unbelievable. Quickly finding himself intrigued by and attracted to the beautiful and vulnerable seeming Cassie. Though when the killer begins to strike again, going in the order of the calendar itself, very interesting, Stoner realizes that he needs to solve the mystery soon or risk all of the models ending up in the morgue. A twist-filled and knowingly outrageous made-for-TV giallo, there it is, and detective thriller. William A. Graham's Calendar Girl Murders boasts an incredible all-star cast, headlined by Sharon Stone. You got Tom Skerritt. And featuring supporting performances from Robert Morse, Robert Colt, Barbara Parkins, and many more. Produced by the acclaimed team of John Avnet, who did Risky Business, and Steve Tisch, who did Forrest Gump. Vinegar Syndrome is proud to present Calendar Girls, newly restored from the 35mm. Okay, so in the second film, you get even more kind of like higher, what you recognizable talent in this movie. Like, I mean, very surprising to see a movie like with Sharon Stone, Tom Skerritt, you know, and the producers also of Risky Business and Forrest Gump, in a set that you might not expect them in, I think. Like a made-for-TV thriller movie, you know, it's a little bit surprising to see all these names. Very cool, though. Okay, last one up. Child in the Night. While late one night, at his father's dockside office, young Luke sees his father brutally murdered by a mysterious yellow raincoat-wearing and hook-wielding assailant. Luke, being traumatized by the event, child psychologist Dr. Hollis is called in to attempt to figure out what he saw and whether he can unmask the killer. Striking up a relationship with Bass, lead detective on the case, Hollis finds herself in more than she's bargained for as the unknown killer decides to do away with those who get too close to uncovering his motives and identity. A made-for-TV thriller that slowly morphs into giallo and almost slasher territory, Mike Robe's Child in the Night develops an intriguing and suspenseful mystery set against the backdrop of the Pacific Northwest, starring Tom Skerritt again. What's going on, Tom Skerritt? Got Susan Hubley and Elijah Wood. We all know our good friend Elijah Wood. Got a little Lord of the Rings, but then, you know, Maniac for the horror fans. In one of his earliest roles. They're bringing the underseen Child in the Night to Blu-ray, restored from the 35mm Interpositive. That's super cool. So these things are like Sharon Stone, Tom Skerritt bringing double heat. You got Dennis Quaid, Elijah Wood. All right, so if you can believe it, that is a dialed-back version of what I got from the Vinegar Syndrome Halfway to Black Friday sale. You probably could have finished your lunch, honestly, looking at it now. But can you imagine if I would have read them all? We're going to keep trying to do some of these, whether it's an unboxing or a review of some of these Blu-rays. I apologize. It's been a little while. There's been some stuff going on behind the scenes. We're getting some, doing some stuff. Looking forward to bringing the cast back soon, so definitely stay tuned for that. But definitely maybe incorporating our YouTube a little bit more frequently with a little bit more variety. So looking forward to that and the announcements coming up on those fronts. I said anything else? I can't think of anything. Vinegar Syndrome, July 1st. These will be back up. Fingers crossed they're still in stock, the ones that were really low there at the end. If you were interested in any of that, hopefully you can get your hands on it. If you do, or if you don't and have other stuff you want to throw out there, or ask questions about the movies or comment on the movies, tell me I have a problem when it comes to buying these movies, please leave a comment. Just subscribe. It helps us out a ton, trying to get notifications out there so you know when like videos go live. Like I said, there will be these will start to kind of ramp up a little bit, so you definitely want to be in the know if this is your jam. So I think that's all I've got. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you at the cinema, dirtbags.